So my story really starts with the fact that I have two amazing children. Very lucky to have these two children in my life. These two were definitely the children meant for me. They make me wonder, they challenge me, and what they really do is make me wonder, do other parents go through this same crap? We're the typical home. We're the dad, aka husband, wife, aka mom, one son, one daughter, a dog, 2 to 3 cats, depending upon the month, depending upon the year, and 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. I'm not making this up. Also a white picket fence for real, the typical home life you think of. At least that's what we present to the outside world. Back in 2010, my son joined the Army. And when he went into the Army at the age of 17 years old, I felt like my heart had broken. He went cross-country to Georgia, and I remember sitting on his bed and thinking, wow, how am I going to do this? It felt like my heart had been ripped open, and I was bleeding, and yet nobody knew. The worst thing happened pretty quickly on. We decided to go camping after he had left for the Army for the weekend so I could try to get some sort of head back in the game. And when we got home, there was a message on the answering machine. And I hear my son say, "I guess you're not home." Mom, the crack in his voice. I think I made a bad decision. I'm not sure I can do this. And I was devastated, heartbroken that I was not there for my child in that moment. I remember saving that message on my answering machine and listening to it several times over a very long period of time to remind myself of what a terrible parent I was for not being there in that moment. Was I going to allow myself to recover from this? Could I recover from that? Was I allowed to recover? Resilience. The act of recovering quickly, utilizing help around you. Resilience. Elasticity. Being able to go back to the way that you once were. And at some point, over the following 6 months, I realized that I could indeed recover. And it was okay. Maybe, just maybe, the best thing I could have ever done, parental efficacy, in the fact that my son was forced to rely on those in the Army with him and himself to recover himself and stay in the service for that period of time. Him being away allowed me to spend some extra time with my youngest. I got to become the helicopter mom that maybe they did or did not really want, but I had the time. We definitely were connected at the hip. We went everywhere together, did everything. I knew everything about that little girl until I didn't. In fact, this little girl just told me that she was meant to be a he. And my first response was, well, that's not happening. I'm not sure how I can cope with that. That's a punch. That's a something. I'm not sure quite what that is, but the answer's no, I don't think so. And yet, it went on, and let me start from the beginning until we got to that stage. So around 13 years old, my daughter, crying. We're in the Save Mart parking lot, and she's crying, and like, I need to tell you something. And I'm like, what? I'm getting more worried as the time goes on, and tears are flowing. And of course, I'm crying too. If you're crying, I'm crying. That's how it works. So we're both crying in the Save Mart parking lot, and I said, just tell me I'm going to love you no matter what. I promise I'm going to love you no matter what. Just tell me. And she tells me that she's gay and that she's been in an online relationship with a girl for 9 months, right? So let me tell you, I didn't give myself a chance to really think about the fact that the liking girls thing, it was more like who you in an online relationship with. And if some nasty dude, we're getting in a fight with that dude. But it turns out to be no real concern anyway. Life goes on. She tells me, hey, don't tell anybody. Well, great. All the better. Then I don't have to pretend it's real. And we can continue on with that. You're not gay, great. Nobody needs to know. All is fine in the world. And then the cutting starts. Back in my day, it was really about eating disorders and anorexia. MTV really glorified that type of thing. And then it was cutting. I remember talking to my own counselor about the cutting, and they said, just keep an eye on it. Make sure that you're managing it. Make sure that you're, if they need to go to the doctor, she needs to go to the doctor, you do that or whatever. I'm like, all right. Okay. And then I got a phone call. Bayer High School called me to tell me that my daughter was talking about killing herself and had a plan. Just so happens when that phone call came in, I was in my counseling session with my counselor. So I had a couple of moments to really talk about that with my counselor and say, what do I do? What do I say? Where do I go from here? I don't know what to do. She gave me a couple of tips, and I went to the school and picked her up. Picked her up. We went over to Memorial Hospital, went into the ER there. I remember us laying there. They had pushed 2 gurneys together, and we were laying in there like a bed, intertwined, smelling her hair, pressing on her hair, and just praying that everything was going to be okay. And after 36 hours, a bed became available, but in Bakersfield. We went there. And somebody that was very close to me used to always tell me to prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. What was the worst in this situation for me? The death of my child? I soon found out what could possibly be the worst when I went to the hospital, and I was on the I'm not going to see you banned from the hospital list. Excuse me? I'm not on the list? My kid has put this mom on the list, not being able to be seen at the hospital, and indeed was the case. I'm down there in this motel, roaches, hair that's not mine in the sink, and my child doesn't want to see me. How am I that crap parent on Jerry Springer all of a sudden, with the child in the hospital and all the shenanigans going on? And I get a phone call from my son Kyle who says to me, Mom, Morgan loves you. She's confused right now. She's not sure what's happening. I swear to God, everything's going to be okay. And I was like, I hope so. I hope so. Eventually, we had some family sessions, and we were all in those family sessions, and man, that girl was so shitty. Full of attitude and faces and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, wow. And you're in the counseling session, so you got to be the good parent. So we're listening, we make it through. And during all of this, when I'm able to talk with my son Kyle, he's actually just come from a cross-country trip. After 4.5 years, he was exiting the Army during this time. And his stepdad had gone across country, and they were driving back. So as we're in this hospital bed, before we got transitioned, I didn't tell anybody where we were. Not anybody. I didn't make a phone call. I didn't call anybody. I was like, I got to manage this. I don't want to add any additional stress on this cross-country trip or anything else. Not until we got to the hospital did I make those calls. And they like to speed anyway. They just add a little extra speed so they could get there quicker. We had a party planned for Kyle. We still had that party. Morgan brought a boy to the party, and it was all great. It's a boy she loved for a long time, and I'm like, cool, we got this. Let's go on. All right. And she wrote me a letter. It was often the way that we spoke. She wrote me a letter. She ran down the hall. It's all folded like the 1980s text. Toss it in my room. And we don't live in a mansion. Hello. Toss me a note. And I'm like, why can't you just talk to me? Open the letter, and she says to me in this letter that she likes people for who they are. Not about their gender, but likes them for who they are. That she's bisexual. Cool. That's a 50% chance you're going to pick a boy. I'm still going to get my grandkids. All is good in the world. It's fine. So we go on, and life happens. And then she comes to me, and she says, hey, I'm going to cut my hair. What do you mean you're going to cut your hair? It's long hair. Red. Stunning. Everybody wants to have it. You're trying to get it with your boxes. You can't get it with your box. It's my child's red hair. So we go to the salon. She gets it cut. And I'm like, now people are going to ask me questions because my child's appearance has changed. They're going to start asking me questions, and what am I going to say about this now? Because now things are really happening. She's going to donate it. That's why she got her hair cut. She's going to donate it. So we let people know that she's going to donate it. The thing is that the hair had been dyed. It was that ombre that was in style back then. And they wouldn't take it. So I kept it. I still have it. All right. So there was a relapse during all of this, a relapse. Had to go to the school. The school called me. Sorry, Bayer High School. Both my kids, not just the one I'm talking about right now, both, sorry. So I get the call, go in. I have to take her back to the hospital to be evaluated. And I was pissed off. We're not going to do this every day. We can't go back and forth to the hospital all the time. We're sitting in the lobby waiting and stuff, and we're getting in a fight. I'm doing most of the yelling, but we're getting in a fight. I'm like, this is ridiculous. You got to make a decision. You're going to be sane or you're going to be insane. Make the decision. We can't come back and forth to the hospital all the time. I was pissed off. So my kid responds, equally mad because now we're fighting. Fine. And we left. Not my best parenting moment, but you know what? It's what had to happen in that moment. We left the hospital, went home, and things were good. And I got another letter. So I got another letter, open the letter up, and the first thing says, hey, I'm not gay. Well, great! And then I read on. I'm not gay because I like girls because it's natural, because I was meant to be a boy. Well, what do you mean? Now, for real, what am I going to tell the people? How's that going to work out? And I'm wondering, how can my child talk to me? Remember how close we were? I talked about that already. Where are my signs? Everybody used to tell me all the time, oh, you would see signs. Signs that your child's gay. You just know they're gay. Okay, where's my I'm supposed to be a boy sign? Thanks, MTV, TLC with your crap shows about acceptance and all these kinds of things, that it's okay to be whatever you want to be. Not for my kid. Not okay for them to be whatever they want to be. But in fact, it is. Right? So let's talk about where we are now. So a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the hair, right? A couple of weeks ago, as I mentioned in the beginning, I had recently changed jobs. And so I had kept this hair hidden in a little bag at my job because I couldn't really keep it at home, right? So a couple weeks ago, we'd been moving, because I changed jobs and that kind of stuff. And he found the hair. Right? I know. So I don't think it's creepy at all. It's very logical. It's very sane. I made a decision long ago to be sane. Remember? But I'm hearing from other people that it's not so sane. But I'm still keeping it. I got it in the same bag. It's all fancy. I'm still keeping it. That's mine. But you know what it is? It is something that I kept because it was reminding me of something I'd lost. What I didn't realize was all I could gain. It's not about acceptance. It's not about acceptance at all. It's about living. It's about living with what you have, loving what you have, and being your authentic self. During this cutting time, my child turned to me at the young age of 16-ish and said, "I want to get a tattoo." And I said, "Well, that's not going to happen." And he said, "Well, it's a semicolon." And it moved me, really moved me that my child wanted to get something to represent all he had been through. And I said, "How about I get it for you?" And I don't think you really thought I would get it, but I did. On April 16th, Semicolon Project Day, I went to the tattoo shop and took him with me to get the tattoo, which is what I have right here. To represent that you don't need to end your sentence. You can have a semicolon and continue on into something else. That life is definitely about what you live and what you give, not about who you are. So what I would like to do is take this opportunity to introduce you to my son, Parker, my youngest son. Thank you.